Good morning. In my previous video, I had introduced you all to the concept of integrals. Now, we had seen that integration is the inverse process of the differentiation. And it is also called as antiderivative. That is, if we are given the derivative of a function and we are required to find the original function corresponding to which it is the derivative, then that original function is called as the antiderivative, and the process of finding that antiderivative is called as integration. Now, the theorem which gives us a link or a relation between these two processes, that is the process of integration and the process of differentiation, is called as fundamental theorem of calculus. It says that if fx is a function of x defined in some interval I, such that the derivative of fx is equal to another function small fx. Okay, so then we have to find the antiderivative of fx, or we have to find the integral of fx. Okay, now we also know that the derivative of a constant function is always 0, so we can write that derivative of fx plus c is equal to fx. That is, all such functions where c, like the main parent function, remains the same and you are adding some constant to it, that this constant could be positive, negative or 0. All these on differentiating will give us a unique function fx. Then we write that integral of fx dx is equal to capital Fx plus c, and this is what is fundamental theorem of calculus. That is, if the derivative of fx is small fx, then the integral of small fx is capital Fx, and we also write this, add an arbitrary constant c to it. This says that the antiderivative or the integral of a function is not unique. So clearly we see that derivative is unique, whereas antiderivative, or as we call it, integral of a function is not unique. And since it is not unique, okay, because we keep giving different values to c, we will keep getting different values or different antiderivatives of the same function small fx. And for this reason, this process is called as indefinite integral, since the result is not definite. Okay, now then we had observed that we can get a lot of antiderivatives or integrals of the standard functions. Like if we know the derivative of a function, we can clearly get the corresponding antiderivative or integral just by observation. The main thing which we had seen was that we know that the derivative of the function x raised power of n is equal to nx raised power n minus 1. That is, when you differentiate some power of x, you get back another function which is of one lower power than what was given. And so it says that if you keep on differentiating it again and again, or if you keep on differentiating such function repeatedly, ultimately this will lead us to a constant whose derivative is ultimately 0. So basically the process of differentiation helps us to wipe off this polynomial or any power of x. Wipe off in the sense that with every stage of differentiation, the function becomes smaller and smaller until a stage comes when it becomes a constant, and then in the next stage 0. Now integration being the reverse of this or the inverse of this process, we should get the other way around, that with every stage of integration we should get a function which is bigger than what was given to us initially. Let's see how. Now suppose we differentiate x raised power of n plus 1 upon n plus 1. Suppose we have to differentiate this function. Now what do we get? Applying chain rule, n plus 1 is a constant, so it remains as it is. So 1 upon n plus 1 and into derivative of x raised power n plus 1, which gives us 1 upon n plus 1 into applying chain rule x raised power n plus 1 minus 1, which gives us x raised power of n, that is derivative of x raised power n plus 1 upon n plus 1 is equal to x raised power n. And so from here we can write the antiderivative or the integral of x raised power n dx is equal to x raised power n plus 1 over n plus 1, and obviously we have to write an arbitrary constant which is a must, and so plus c. So what do we observe? 2-3 things which we observe is, when you differentiate, you get a power less than what we started with. That's the first point. And whatever was the original power, that gets multiplied to the result. Whereas here, when you integrate the same function x raised by n, you get a power which is 1 more than what we started with, and whatever is the new power, that gets divided. So divided in the result. Another thing which has to be kept in mind is, when you write the derivative, it's d by dx, whereas in the symbol of integration we write the integral, then the integrand is the function which is to be integrated, and then this dx is multiplied to it. So every stage, if you observe, the process of differentiation, whatever way we write, whatever answer we get, is entirely the opposite or the inverse of the process of integration, in the manner in which we write it or we get the result. This is one point. Then we had seen all the results. So we had seen that all the results, basic results of integration, can be directly seen by the basic results of derivatives that we had observed earlier also in the previous video. Now another point which I want to highlight here is, we know that the derivative of sine x is equal to cos x, so that this gives us integral of cos x dx is equal to sin x plus a constant, whereas derivative of cos x is minus sin x, which can be written as derivative of minus cos x is sin x. This gives us integral of sin x dx is equal to minus cos x plus c. So we observe again here, if we observe carefully, we see that in case of derivatives, the derivative of sine is positive, whereas derivative of cosine is negative. In case of integrals, since it's the inverse of the process of differentiation, we get just the opposite answer. That is, the integral of cos is positive, whereas integral of sine is negative. Similarly, the other results also can be kept in mind. Now let's quickly start with exercise 7.1, and I'll just take up a few important questions of this so that the concept of antiderivative or indefinite integral is clear to all of you. So let's take up question number 7. It says that to find the integral of now one more thing which I have to point out here is that just like differentiation, we know that, so we will first do algebra of integrals. Just as the derivative of sum of two functions or the difference of two functions is the sum or difference of the two derivatives. Same way here also we have, if you are given a integral of, suppose you are required to find the integral of sum of two functions or the difference of two functions, then the result is the integral sum or difference of the integrals of individual functions. Another thing which has to be kept in mind is that if you multiply a function by a constant, that is k times a function, when it is integrated, the result is k times the integral of the given function. These two points have to be kept in mind while doing the integrals of any question or any function which is given to us. Okay, so let's start. So first of all, given an integral to be solved, we will always name it as capital I. Okay, so that's a standard notation for an integral. So what do we get? I is equal to, let's open these brackets, we get x square minus 1 into dx. So using this result, this result of algebra of integrals, we will get it is equal to integral of x square dx minus integral of 1 dx. Now this will give us, now integral of x square, we know that x raised by n, the integral is x raised by n plus 1 upon n plus 1. So what do we get? X raised by 2 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 minus 1 can be written as x raised by 0. So we get x raised by 0 plus 1 upon 0 plus 1 plus a constant. And this gives us x cube over 3 minus x plus c. So what do we observe? That the integral of 1 dx is always equal to x. So this is the answer. Now so same way we can write in the more general form. Question number 8 says we have to find ax square plus bx plus c into dx. So again applying the algebra of integrals, which is this, what do we get? It will be a times integral of x square dx plus b times integral of x dx plus c times integrals of 1 dx. Which now here at the moment we are writing it like this. Slowly you will get, as you become more comfortable solving the integrals, you can skip this step and write the answer directly. Like you need not show that you are splitting these integrals, just as we do derivative of sum of certain functions directly. Same way the integral of sum of functions can also be written directly. So what do we get? I is equal to a times, now x square will be x cube by 3, because 2 plus 1 is 3. Directly we'll write x cube by 3 plus b times the integral of x would be x square by 2 plus c times integral of 1 is x plus another constant. So let's write it as some other constant, because c is being used here. So we will write some constant k, and this is the answer. Now same way, if we take question number 9. So I is equal to 2 times x square plus e raised to power x dx. Now on integrating we get, it will be 2 is as it is into integral of x square is x cube upon 3 plus integral of e raised to power x, since the derivative of e raised to power x is e raised to power x, so integral also is the same, so you write it as e raised to power x plus a constant. Question number 10 says that square root of x minus 1 upon square root of x whole square into dx. Now one more thing which you have to keep in mind is, do not skip writing this dx. Without this dx, just as we have the symbol for differentiation is d by dx. This is the operator. Similarly, symbol for integration is integral dx. This is the operator. So just as if you do not write dx in the denominator, this is incomplete way of writing the operator for differentiation. Similarly, along with the integral, if you don't write this dx, this operator is incomplete representation of integration. So please be very careful that you have to write dx always in each step, till as long as you are writing the symbol for integration. Once you apply this integration, then you will not be required to write this dx anymore. Like now here we are first, before applying the integral, we are first simplifying this function. So applying the formula for the square of difference of two functions, what do we get? This becomes this square plus this square minus 2 times square root of x into 1 upon square root of x, and dx gets carried down as it is. So this gives us I is equal to x plus 1 upon x minus 2 into dx. Now when you integrate, what do we get? Integral of x is x square upon 2 plus integral of 1 upon x, as we had seen in the previous video, it is equal to log x minus 2 times integral of 1 dx is x and plus a constant, and this is the answer. So now when we have applied the integral, so we remove this sign as well as this dx, so we don't have to write it any further. Okay. Now same way, if we take question number 12, so what do we get? I is equal to x cube plus 3x plus 4 upon square root of x into dx. Okay. Now before, we haven't done the formula for integral of two function of quotient of two functions. So first of all, let's see whether we can remove this from the denominator or not. Now how do we do this? This can be written as, by splitting the numerator, we get x cube over x raised to power half plus 3x over x raised to power half plus 4 over x raised to power half whole into dx. See, slowly, you don't have to write all these steps. You can directly come to the next step, which is integral of x raised to power 3 minus half, 3x raised to power 1 minus half, 4x raised to power minus half into dx, which gives you x raised to power 3 minus half. So you can easily, later on, once you get comfortable doing this kind of questions, you can skip out this step and from here directly write this step. Now what do we get? This becomes 6 minus 1, 5. So 5 upon 2, 3x raised to power half plus x raised 4 times x raised to power minus half whole into dx. Now applying the integral, what do we get? this becomes, now we no longer have to write this symbol for integral because we are applying the integral. Now what do we get? X raised power of, this is n is 5 by 2. So what do we get? 5 by 2 plus 1 upon 5 by 2 plus 1 plus 3 times x raised by half plus 1 over half plus 1 plus 4 times x raised by minus half plus 1 over minus half plus 1. And then a thing which is a must is plus c. So on solving we get x raised by 5 by 2 plus 1 is 7 by 2, and this is upon 7 by 2, which can be written as a reciprocal. So it gives you 2 by 7 x raised by 7 by 2 plus 3 into. Now this becomes 3 by 2. So 2 by 3 x raised by 3 by 2 plus this becomes half. So this becomes 4 into 2 x raised by half plus c, and thus ultimately we get I is equal to 2 by 7 x raised by 7 by 2 plus this gets cancelled. 2 times x raised by 3 by 2 plus 4 into 2 is 8 x raised by half plus c, which is the answer. Same way you can try out the rest of the questions also. So now let's take up some questions involving trigonometric functions. So let's take up question number 16. Now it says that I is equal to 2x minus 3 cos x plus e raised by x into dx. So what do we get? Directly we can write the answer 2 times. The integral of x is x squared by 2 minus 3 times integral of cos x is sin x plus integral of e raised by x is e raised by x plus c. This gets cancelled. I gives you x square minus 3 sin x plus e raised by x plus c. Similarly, question number 18, if you see, I is equal to sec x into sec x plus tan x into dx. Now this looks like product of two functions, but we have not done the result for integral of product of two functions so far. So let's see if we can simplify it directly. So let's first open up the brackets and see what we get. Sec squared x plus sec x tan x dx. Now this can be easily written as antiderivatives from the results of derivatives done so far. We know that sec squared x is the derivative of tan x, so its integral would be tan x, and sec x tan x is the derivative of sec x, and so its integral would be sec x. So what do we get? I is equal to integral of sec squared x is tan x plus integral of sec x tan x is sec x, and obviously we have to write an arbitrary constant c, and so this is the answer. Now question number 19 is sec squared x over cosec squared x into dx. Now in this case, whenever you come across any trigonometric function other than sine and cos, we usually try to write them in terms of sine and cos. It becomes much easier to deal with them, unless and until of course it's a question like this, which is a direct application of the results. Okay, so here we know the integral of sec squared x, we know the integral of cosec squared x, but we don't know how to apply integral to quotient of two functions. So let's first convert it to sine and cos and see what do we get. So I becomes equal to, this is 1 over cos squared x upon 1 over sine squared x into dx, which on taking the reciprocal becomes sine squared x over cos squared x dx. I becomes equal to tan squared x dx. Now again, we know the integral of tan x, but we don't know the integral of tan squared x. So let us see that can we convert this function to a form whose integral we know? So we know one result, that tan squared x is equal to sec squared x minus 1. Now let's see. If we write this tan squared x in terms of sec squared x minus 1, we know the integral of sec squared x, we know the integral of 1, and so we can solve this problem. Now this becomes equal to integral of tan sec squared x is equal to tan x minus integral of 1 is equal to x plus a constant, which is the result. So what did we observe here? That some questions we can, though directly just by observation we can't write its antiderivative, but with slight changes, and that changes also we have not brought about ourselves. We have simply written the simplified version of these. So we simply convert this question in terms of sine and cos. We get a form tan squared x. This also directly we don't know the answer, but by writing it in another form, which is sec squared x minus 1, we are able to apply the direct results. Okay, now let's see question number 20. This says that I is equal to 2 minus 3 sin x over cos squared x. Now again, it's a quotient of two functions, but let's try that by some simple calculations or simplifications, can we convert it to a form whose integral we know? So let's try out. I is equal to 2 upon cos squared x, which can be written as 2 sec squared x minus 3 into sin x over cos squared x, which can be written as sec x tan x dx. Now we know the integral of sec squared x and we know the integral of sec x tan x. So directly we write I is equal to 2. Integral of sec squared x is tan x minus 3 times integral of sec x tan x is sec x plus a constant, and so we are able to write the question. Similarly, the other two questions also. So let's see question number 21. It says that root x plus 1 upon root x dx can be written as x raised power half plus x raised power minus half dx, and directly we write the answer x raised power half plus 1, which is 3 by 2 upon 3 by 2, which can be written as 2 into 2 by 3 plus x raised power minus half plus 1 is half. So x raised power half upon half, which can be written as 2 times x raised power half plus a constant. So with this you can try out all the remaining questions also of this exercise and finish off this exercise. Thank you.